everyone. Welcome back to the cottage and welcome to another episode of my Celtic Tree Ogham series. We have moved on to the branch of transformation and to the Ailm. And we are talking today about the Ailm Pine or Ailm Silver Fir. And they're very interchangeable. They're very, very similar, but they are different considering what region you lived in. So we're kind of going to talk about both trees, but I'll talk more about the pine specifically because that's what I am more familiar with. But I am going to dip into the lore of the silver fir as well. So the Scots pine silver fir is the tree of peace or the tree of longevity. And this is where we dip into the vowels. So we're talking about the A, but it is pronounced ah, like ah, we're finally to the vowels. So let's take a look at our beautiful Scots pine here. I love that each of the oracles that we're going to look at feature a different tree, which is great for me because we get to kind of take a look at both of them. And where is my porcupine quill? I swear when I get merchandise, you guys, I'm going to get one. I'm going to get a t-shirt that says, "Where's my porcupine quill?" So, and I'm so sad because this morning I broke the tip of one. Oh, I'm so sad. All right, here is the Scots pine. And look at that face. He's just like making this, oh, you know, he's making the vowel. I love that. There's his eyes, his little crooked nose, and his mouth. And I love the sunset behind him and all the other pine trees around him and that reddish color. We don't have that much around here. We have tons of pine trees, but they're not the reddish hue. I think the sun must bleach that out here in Arizona because we sure don't get those reddish tones. But I do love this picture, and I love seeing that beautiful, beautiful reddish tone next to that green. I just love it. So here's our silver fir, and you can tell that how patchy it is. And you can see the moss growing on it. Such a beautiful tree, the silver fir. Love it. So our Ogham is easy. It's just a cross. One crossy is what I like to say. And here is our pine with one crossy. You know me, I like to keep things simple for my memory. And I brought a little friend, a little pine cone, which we will go into the lore of pine cones as well. But I knew I had to bring a little friend with me today. So he's going to hang out there with us and help to tell our stories and our lore today. So let's just jump right into the lore. The Scots pine is an evergreen conifer reaching up to 40 meters tall. It has blue-green needles that last for 3 to 5 years and short-stalked oval cones. It is very hardy, and its deep roots allow it to colonize some of the more extreme climates. That's why we have it here in Arizona. It can grow from very dark environments to even boggy to even sandy environments. It is distinguished from the silver fir by its bark, which is fissured and brown at the base and rising to reddish as it reaches the upper half of the trunk. The Scots pine grows well in Northern Europe and Scandinavia and was one of the first trees introduced into the U.S. around 1600. So when we see a pine tree, yeah, show some respect. It's been here a while. Now, the silver fir, also associated with elm, grows up to 50 meters and has gray, smooth bark. So that's how you kind of distinguish between a pine and a fir, that smoother bark. It doesn't generally reach as tall, though, or as high up mountainsides as the Scots pine. Its needles last 8 to 12 years, twice as long as the pine, though. And the silver fir is not as hardy as the Scots pine, although it does well on most terrain. It prefers moist soils and areas with high humidity. So we're not going to see any silver fir around here in Arizona anytime soon. The silver fir is a threatened species in its natural habitats, largely due to poor forestry practice and pollution. So again, you see a silver fir, show some respect because you might not see another one in your lifetime. Yeah. So in the early Irish Brehon laws, the pine was one of the 7 noble trees. Felling it unlawfully incurred the harshest penalty, death. No questions asked. And yeah, which was reserved for felling the pine, the apple, the hazel, and entire groves. Yeah. Very serious penalty indeed. Now, Ailm was the first vowel in the Ogham and is said to be an Ogham about incentive, breaking new ground, and motivation, promoting perspective and clear-headedness. Its energy helps to overcome obstacles and stuck circumstances, resulting with the relief or inspiration that signifies such a release, as well as the energy to achieve the necessary breakthrough and to move forward. And I love that. And that makes so much sense because the pine is so very tall that you need that height to have that clear-headedness. You need to be in touch with your higher self, and that helps to have that perspective. Now, the pine's common use today, anybody want to guess? Yep, Christmas trees, is a modern incarnation of its long-standing association with the winter solstice. Which came first? You bet. Winter solstice. Its prominent vitality and hardiness is a symbol that life continues throughout the harshest of seasons, and that in the darkest times, the sun's journey has already begun to swing towards the earth once again. Its reputation as a tree of regeneration also has a practical manifestation. When cut down, the tree might appear dead, but new stems will appear from the ever-growing roots. Isn't that great? It's just, I'm not dead. I'm just going to sleep for a while, and then when spring comes, I'll start growing again. I love that. Now, the tradition of decorating the tree at winter solstice goes back millennia to when the spirit of the tree was honored and asked to bless and support the people through the cold season, conveying its vitality upon them. Now, in Scandinavia's Viking eras, boughs of pine or fir were brought indoors and decorated to entice or honor the spirits of growth to return in the spring as precursors to the modern Christmas tree. Yep, it's all pagan. All of it is pagan. Now, pine torches, I thought this was cool, were used at weddings from olden times. In ancient Roman Greece, the cones had a phallic significance. We kind of know this instinctively, I think. I don't think anybody has to tell you that the pine cone is a phallic symbol. I mean, I think we know instinctively. Now, the pine cone was sacred to love goddesses, symbolizing fecundity, fire, good luck, regeneration, and the male aspect. Now, twin pine trees symbolized fidelity and passionate love, and an unopened pine cone symbolized virginity. Makes sense, right? As the trees were associated with fertility, the Highlands of Scotland attributed the high number of illegitimate births with the large number of pine trees growing in the region. Blame the trees. Let's just blame the trees and all the pine cones it produced for all the births happening. Yes. Oh, how silly. All right. Now, in a classical myth, Attis, a fertility deity, mutilated himself under a pine tree, into which his spirit passed. Now, the tree was then bled at the vernal equinox for turpentine. That lovely smelling substance, yes. The tree was eventually cut down and adorned with ribbons and carried to a mother goddess's sanctuary where it was decorated with violets and fleeces. Now you know. The pine was believed to give birth to wood spirits in Germany. They were born and came out of every hole and knot in the trunk. Yep. Now there's a Swedish story that tells of a beautiful woman being born in this way. She was a tall, bright beauty with a musical and whimsical voice, soft as a murmur in a pine wood. She helped with farm work, and strangers wondered about her origins until one day a knot in a pine board fell out, and a way to escape back to the forest was open. The woman put her ear next to that place and heard the music of the other world. Then she shrank back into the size of an elf and disappeared back to the enchanted forest forever. Pretty awesome, right? I thought that was pretty cool. Now, the pine has been dedicated to Pan, Cernunnos, Poseidon, Osiris, and Bacchus. There were old pine trees in Greece under which altars dedicated to them were made, sometimes including a small sacred fire. Now, with poets, pine has been associated with distant mountains and solitude. That makes a lot of sense. A Breton myth tells that the magical wizard figure Merlin climbed a pine tree and never returned to the world of men afterwards. And it was considered a sacred tree, which has housed the soul of Merlin ever since. That's awesome. That is so cool. Now, the magic mushroom fly agaric, or Amanita muscaria, often grows under pine trees, called scarlet goblin's fungus in a translation from Japan. I'm totally going to call it that from now on. Scarlet goblin's fungus. Yes. Now, these mushrooms were associated with visions and the spirit world. Don't go eating them. Don't go eating them and saying the veiled cottage witch said I could. Don't do that. Don't do that. But it is pretty cool that they grow under a pine tree. Maybe sit down if you find one under a pine tree. Maybe sit down and meditate with it, but don't eat it. Don't do it. All right. Pine was also a funerary tree. being as it is an evergreen and symbolic of everlasting life and immortality. A Russian custom was to cover the coffin being carried to the cemetery with branches of both pine and fir. The pine tree was considered unlucky in the Channel Isles. And in a Gorsney belief, a family could lose their property if they planted a row of pines. There are a few references to the belief, similar to other trees such as hawthorn and elder, that if you fell asleep under a pine, you would never wake up. I don't know. I don't think the pine has quite the reputation as the hawthorn or the elder. So I say still give it a shot. Take a nap under a pine. Tell me how it works for you. Now, this is my favorite story. An enchanted story from Japan tells that an old man had a magic dog who dug in the ground in a certain spot and uncovered gold. A jealous, mean-spirited neighbor asked to borrow the dog, assuming the same good fortune would come to him. Now, when the dog only uncovered filth and rubbish, the neighbor killed the dog. I know, that's terrible. But go with me here. And buried him under a pine tree between the two properties. The tree then grew into a large size and housed the dog's spirit and continued to serve the old couple. Now, the old man needed a mortar to pound grain and fashioned one from a pine bough of the enchanted tree. It brought great abundance, and there was never a lack of food in the house. Now, the wicked neighbor asked to borrow the mortar, again hoping to gain the benefits. When only worms came into his cooking pot, he attempted to destroy it by breaking it into pieces and burning it. Some men are stubborn. I don't know. The old man gathered up the charred bits and, still believing that they were magical, cast them into the forest, and they grew into pine trees, green and healthy, even in the winter. The Lord of the land heard about the old couple and their magic pine trees and rewarded them with gold, silks, and riches for the rest of their lives, while the evil neighbor was whipped for his jealousy. Oh, see, jealousy gets you nowhere. See, nowhere. All right. Now, some Native American tribes burned pine branches to drive away ghosts from the houses of returning people. They burned branches and threw the ashes into a hearth fire when someone died in the home. Also, the smoke and a wash made from the pine was used for protection for someone who had seen a dead person. The Navajo tribe used the pine needles in a war dance, and the pitch was also painted all over the dancer. The pine pollen was used in a night chant medicine, and the needles and wood were boiled as a ceremonial purgative. The plant was smoked as a hunting medicine. The Hopi tribe used the pitch on the forehead as a protection against evil witchcraft. They also burned the pitch as a disinfectant for a family of one who had died. Another tribe used the needles to spread on the floor of a sweat house for protection during trance journeys. The Blackfoot tribe still uses the wood of the lodgepole pine to make story sticks, which are given to children by elders. The stories that the children earn are represented by the number of notches in the stick. Isn't that cool? I love that. So the lesson of the pine and fir. From its lofty position above the tops of most other trees, the pine reminds ancient people of the importance of taking the higher view, encouraging objectivity and farsightedness. We are advised to cleanse ourselves of negativity, neither dwelling on mistakes nor placing blame. Fir is a symbol of the elevated mind and the birth of the spiritual warrior. I love that. All right. Practical and magical uses. Now, pine and fir have long been used for ships' masts, house joists, rafters, floors, telegraph poles, if anybody still remembers what telegraphs are, and wood wool, which is a cushion filler and packing material, and much more. Pine is also used to make chipboard, as it is not a strong wood despite its long fibers. It is made into turpentine, as we have found out, and vegetable tar from the roots have been used to stimulate hair growth. The resinous wood burns well, producing a strong flame. Magically, pine is excellent for cleansing and prosperity spells, as well as calling upon upper world spirits for assistance in bringing changes in fortune. As long as we don't do it out of jealousy. We don't want to be that old neighbor. Pine also helps build magical endurance and restores hope and positivity to those who have been suffering for a long time. It can be burnt as wood upon a hearth or as incense for these purposes, and blessed pine needles thrown into boiling spring water form a sort of magical aromatherapy. Pine cones can be used as fertility charms, we know, especially for men, as the phallic energy helps to build up vigor and robust good health. Pine cones were placed along with acorns on the mythical Maenad's wand tips and were used to draw water or wine from the earth. Likewise, a pine cone tipped wand can draw the earth's fertility and abundance into your life. They are powerful magical tools of manifestation and sacred sexual union. Pine cones and branches hung over the bed ward off illness and are especially useful placed near the ill or weak. Likewise, they can be hung around the home to draw their evergreen strength and vitality. Pine and fir can both be used in herbal sachets and charm bags to ease depression, fatigue, and overturn bad luck. And that's the same for the Ogham symbol. Everything that pine and silver fir can do, so can the Ogham symbol. Don't forget. All right, spell work. The pine tree is well known for its purification properties and for dispelling negative energy. It is especially effective in public spaces. The same qualities also make it an ally in defensive magic and for protection from hexes, especially for the home. Burn a few dried needles for these purposes. Use the cone to represent blessings, to attract abundance, and for spells that banish or bind. The scent of pine can steady and focus the mind for psychic work and to help communicate with spirits. Also use the scent to stimulate the energy around you. On a spiritual level, pine aids in healing, inspiration, and helps to access ancient wisdom. Carry the Ogham or a few scales from a pine cone for confidence and courage, especially when dealing with legal matters. Fir is a tree of beginnings, energy, growth, and healing. Burn a few dried needles to purify an area before ritual or magic work, and afterwards to aid in grounding energy. Hold a cluster of needles or a cone or the Ogham during meditation to foster clear communication and creative expression. To kindle inspiration, place a few needles or a couple of cones in your workspace or your Ogham. Remember, you don't have to have the actual Ogham. You can write it as a sigil. So just the symbol has the power. Okay? As an all-purpose purifier, fir provides protection and helps to overcome and remove hexes. The scent of fir heightens awareness for divination and spiritual work and is especially effective for connecting with forest spirits. Use a small branch or a couple of cones for prosperity spells and for support during channeling. The scent of fir also aids in focusing energy inward to restore memories. Associated with the otherworld and death, fir is an instrument of change that eases the transition from life through death to renewal while comforting those left behind in this world. Use it in rituals to honor loved ones who have passed. Through the most trying circumstances, this tree helps to foster hope, happiness, and peace. All right. So linked concepts. These are your keywords to use during magic and spell work, where you can use pine, silver fir, or your Ogham, or just the sigil. Okay? Here we go. Heightened awareness, clarity, warding off hexes, protection, prosperity, otherworld journeying, purification, banishing, binding, fertility, focus, healing, justice, removing negativity, manifestation, and transformation. So a lot to work with this Ogham, okay? All right, correspondences. Your elements are air, earth, and fire. Your zodiac, Aquarius, Aries, Cancer, Capricorn, Pisces, and Scorpio. Your deities, Aphrodite, Artemis, Astarte, Bacchus, Demeter, Diana, Dionysus, Faunus, Cernunnos, Ishtar, Isis, Neptune, Pan, Persephone, Poseidon, and Rhea. Your color is pale blue. Your totems, the red cow, the crow, the deer, the porcupine, holla, raven, elves, the fae, pixies, and satyrs. The calendar, August 24th to September 2nd. Your related species, the Pinaceae, your cedars, your firs, your hemlocks, larches, cypresses, and spruces. All right. Your healing, herbally and in aromatherapy. Pine is very useful for clearing cold and chest infections, as well as killing germs. Its scent is warming, instilling hope and positivity. The needles and branches were used medicinally by the Greeks and Romans and are still used in saunas in Scandinavia to this day. The vapors and resin releases excellent for the respiratory system and boosts circulation, easing aches and pains and clearing toxins from the body. The aromatherapy oil extracted from the needles, cones, and twigs should only be used in a carrier oil to clear germs from the air. As an additive to cleaners, it can disinfect floors and surfaces, hence its common use in detergents. I love pine sol, right? Now, as a vibrational essence, pine decongests mind, body, and spirit, clearing blockages and bringing clear vision. It assists in developing awareness and a sense of purpose, showing the way ahead out of stale or congested circumstances. It is also used to help clear the conscious and alleviate feelings of guilt whether deserved or imagined, a quality attributed to its ability to clear the head and see things forward, to correcting the situation and rectifying any hurts caused. This also brings on a renewed state of creativity as the stagnant energy is released, transforming it into something positive. I love that. So, divination. Where's my bag? Here we go. So, when drawing upright, it means initiations, birth and death, beginning a new phase, and foresight. Now, if the roots are upright, it is reversed. So we're talking about not seeing a situation clearly and the inability to see the truth. Foggy thinking, right? You're not getting that higher self mindset, okay? You need to get up higher. Keep climbing. You're not quite there yet, all right? So that was Ailm Pine or Ailm Silver Fir. So we are on the vowel branch, the branch of transformation. So I hope you guys enjoyed my presentation. Lots of good, interesting things about this Ogham. So please give this video a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss the next one that we talk about, which will be on gorse. So beautiful, beautiful tree, the gorse. I can't wait to talk about it. So please visit my website at theveiledcottagewitch.com, where you can book a reading, book a class, book a service, book a workshop. Most of my classes I'm able to do online. So hit me up with a message on my website if that sounds interesting to you, so we can get you set up. You can also shop my holistic healing products or my ritual and spell aids. But please remember at checkout to enter the code word all caps veiled to get your free shipping. That is a huge discount and my gift from me to you just for making to the end of this video. If you'd like to financially support this channel, there are several ways to do that down in the description box below, but not necessary, but greatly appreciated. Just live your best life and live for yourself. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.